Hello, welcome back to Deconstructing with Dawn. I have finally reached the 2,000 subscriber mark, which is just monumental to me. Each of these milestones that I reach, I am so humbled and thankful for each and every one of you, for each of your comments, for each of your views, for each of your sharing of the stories, your emails, messages. I mean, it just is amazing to me that anybody cares one iota about what I have to say, but more importantly, that so many of you share your stories with me, and that we are so much alike where I thought I was alone. And so this journey that I've been taking about 2 years now on YouTube in general, I think I've been on for 2 years, it's just heartwarming to me, and I cannot thank each and every one of you for caring and sharing. As such, I said at my 2,000 subscriber mark, I would do a giveaway for the Ancestry followers. So stay tuned for the end of this video for the giveaway, okay? I have two intriguing updates to share with you about my DNA saga. If you're not familiar with my story, it would be best if you go look at the Father Unknown, my results with DNA, AncestryDNA, because all this is going to make sense if you go watch that. So I'll try to link it. I don't know how to do that, but I'll try to do it. If not, just go to my, I think I have a folder my son set up for my DNA journey. So just go look for it because it'll make sense. Otherwise, this is going to be weird. But okay, so just briefly, almost 2 years ago, I got a DNA kit for my 45th birthday, and I should have known or had some inkling or subconsciously known that, you know, things may not have turned out as I expected, because why else would you do a DNA thing? However, I was telling myself I was doing it for medical purposes because I am extremely ill. I have 5 autoimmune diseases, and I'm just a freak of nature. I'm losing my vision, and at the time, my most important thing was to try to figure out if there was a reason why I was losing my vision, if there was a reason I had all these autoimmune diseases, and ultimately, that's kind of getting resolved with the facts that I've found from doing that Ancestry DNA. However, when I got the results on Black Friday, I was shocked, stunned, sickened, saddened, furious, pissed off. If my mother wasn't dead, I would have killed her. I was so upset that I came out to be half Irish. And what was ironic about that is that I had already been to Ireland like 8 months before and had no idea, but I felt so at home there, so welcomed, and people identified with me and all this kind of stuff. And I felt stupid for not knowing I was Irish because look at the red hair, right? Which I just cut off 4 inches, by the way. Last night, I just chopped it off myself. Anyway, so I digress. I do that a lot, sorry. Anyway, so I got the results, was shocked. And just to briefly tell you why I was shocked is all my life I had thought this, not all my life, until I was 25, candidate number 1, which is how I refer to these men, candidate number 1 is Russian and Polish, and I came out to be no Russian Polish, I came out half Irish. Candidate number 2 was introduced to me on my 25th birthday at my door by my mother saying, you know, this is your father, sorry, and I wouldn't even let her in the house. I was so upset. And then there was okay, so then I get the results, and neither one of these guys are Irish at all. I know this to be factual. So my mother died at 48. At this point, I believe it was 12 years prior to this, finding out all this information. And so I contacted her oldest friends. One of them said, I have no idea what you're talking about. No, that's not the case. And the other one sung like a bird, sung like a, yeah, bird, whatever. I don't know, sung like a bird, whatever. I don't know what the saying is. And tells me that candidate number 3 is your father. He's an Irishman, family's from Ireland, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, so I have my results and I'm trying to match him up. His name is pretty unique to Ireland and to America, and I couldn't find any matches at all to that name, but I didn't know any other name to go off of either. So even though I had a lot of paternal matches, none of the names was that last name that I was looking for. So I had no idea what his mother's name was. I didn't know anything like that. I just knew I had a last name to go by, and I couldn't match it up. So I tell her this, I'm like, I can't find a match to this. So then she tells me candidate number 4 is a possibility, candidate number 5, but I think I ended at 5. I'm still trying to match up these 4s and 5s, 1s and 2s. Nobody's matching. Until finally, I think about 4 months later, there's a car passing. The last name of candidate number 2 pops up as a 3rd cousin with a 2nd cousin. The centimorgans are pretty high on this match. but he has a last name of number 2, and I'm like, oh my God, I never would have expected number 2 to actually be my father, because when my mom was dying, she admitted that he was not my father, and so they just reversed back to candidate number 1, from that point on. Well, the first paternal match that is so close that has a matching name was to 2, right? And so I'm thinking, oh my God, candidate number 2 is actually my father. Where my aunt had always said he wasn't even around when you were conceived. Like, he didn't come around until I was 2 or 3 years old. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they were wrong, but whatever. Ultimately, his mom, this man who had the last name of number 2, matches up to me, and her last name is number 2. And I'm thinking, wait, unless they have the same last name by birth, which I actually do. My birth name is my mother's maiden name, which happens with a lot of kids that are illegitimate. And but ultimately it was her mother that is the aunt to my father, which was candidate number 3. So that solved the mystery there. To this day, there's only like 5 matches that I have in my entire ancestry, which I have more than 3,600 people that have that last name on their tree. So it's a pretty rare name. And so if I would have been going off of that, I probably would have eventually figured it out, but it would have taken me a long time. So candidate number 3 is my father. Now, mind you, I had been told by my sister, my half-sister, I have 2 half-sisters, and from my father I ended up having, as far as I know, 2 to 5 more half-brothers. I've only ever found 2, which I have not ever been able to make contact with because their mother wishes that I not contact them because she doesn't like my father. She's afraid of him. So anyway, I know I have 2 half-brothers. I may have 3 more. I don't know. But my actual half-sister that I grew up with, that my 2 half-sisters are much younger than I am, but they're from my mother and her 2nd or 4th or 9th husband. I'm not sure. I can't remember. The youngest one is a drug addict, and she is mentally ill and just a psycho. I mean, she is... Even when she's not on drugs and stable mentally, she is bad, awful, just awful. So, and she learned it from my mother. My mother was mentally ill, a drug addict, an alcoholic, and just a liar. Like candidate number 1 said, the first thing he remembers about her is being that she was a habitual liar. And she's like 14, 15, 16 at this age, and he said she was a habitual liar at that age. So she was like born that way, right? So my youngest sister tells me that candidate number 2 killed himself on the year after my mother died, our mother died, on her birthday. He killed himself in the middle of the desert in this little dumpy trailer that he had lived in, all by himself. Nobody found him for days, all this horrible thing. So I have thought, okay, well, candidate number 1 is in prison, has been in prison all of my life. Well, with the exception of a few times. I actually saw him probably 4 times all my life until I was 25 when my mother said this other guy's my father, and then we ultimately had a relationship, and we've had a relationship ever since. He still does not know he is not my father, though, because at the recommendation of most of you, you've said, why tell him? He's sick, why tell him? So I have not told him yet. But number 2 has been a family friend, whether he was my pretend father, which I think he knew he was not my father, and my mother at the end of her life told me that he was not my father. I think he knew he wasn't my father, but he was still a family friend. Like, he came to my daughter's graduation. He was my son's buddy. Like, he was a grandfather to them in the sense that, he babysat them. Him and my son were like best buddies. They were always at Toys R Us together. He would dumpster dive quite often. He would bring my son all kinds of crazy toys and stuff, and my son had a really good, tight relationship with him, and so did my daughters. My daughters loved him, and he was grandma's boyfriend, whether he was my father or their grandfather or not. He was around for quite a number of years, and again, most of my life he has been around. So if anything, he was a family friend. He meant something to us, and to know that he had killed himself over my mother was just awful, right? So for the past, I think, so my mom's been dead like 14 years now. So for 13 years, he's been dead, right? And every once in a while, my oldest daughter and I would swear we would see him walking down this main highway that we have in our town, which was every time I talk about this, I break out in hives. Every time. Okay, and I'm not gonna cry. So my daughter and I would always think that we would see him walking down the street and we'd be like, wow, that looks like Mike, or I just said his name. Anyway, so we would always think that we would see him locally, but he's dead. So anyway, so 2 nights ago, I get a message on Facebook from my mother's oldest friend. There's 2 of them. One that was a stool pigeon. That's the name of it, stool pigeon, who told me that number 3 was my father, and the other one was the one that had hung out with my mom since like 2nd grade, had been best friends since like 2nd grade, and knew of candidate number 2. They were friends all their lives. She sends me a message and says that that he's alive, that she just met with him, and he lives over in another desert town about 50 miles away, where I've always known that his mother had lived, and that he was alive, and that sucks. So we've lost, what, like 12 or 13 years? I cannot remember the time frame right now because my mind is mush, but he is alive. And so now I know he's not my father, but again, he was a family friend, and my kids loved him, and to know the way he died, and so all I could think of was how horrible my sister was to say that, because she didn't know he wasn't my father. Both of my sisters thought that number 2 was my father because that's what my mother had said. They knew number 1 wasn't my father because number 2 was introduced to them, and he actually lived with them because they were still kids at the time. And so she told me my father killed myself, and I believe that. So all these years have been lost. Now I know he's not my father, and I keep saying that, but he still was a family friend, and my kids loved him. And to mourn this man, to feel guilt over this man killing himself over my lying mother, and I cannot fully grasp why somebody would do that. Like, I know she's sick, I know she's a drug addict, and she's been a drug addict all these years. In fact, I've disowned her 7 years ago. I think I haven't spoke to her in 7 years, and this has happened twice, where she would come back around, we would forgive her, we would try baby steps, and I think the last time she was around for about 18 months, and then we just had to cut off all ties, and that's how it's been for about 7 years. But can you imagine, like, the sickness in her brain to tell me that my father killed himself over our mother? To where then I believed. I searched, I contacted the coroner's office, I contacted the military, we have a military, oh my God, a national cemetery. I contacted them because that would have been where he would have gone, because locally that's where he would have been buried. I contacted everybody. Nobody had any body, and I thought, oh my God, what if he went to like Potter's Field? What if they cremated him? What if he's still in a freezer somewhere because nobody claimed his body? The torture that I went through when he killed himself, or so I thought, because I felt some obligation, because he may have at one point thought I was his daughter. I just cannot fully explain the hatred that I feel for this piece of crap that is formerly known as my sister. I haven't told my other sister yet, because she was good friends with him too. I mean, she lived with it. He was their stepfather in a sense. My mother and him never married, but he was around forever. And it's just sickening. But then I think my mother told me what she told me, that, number 1 was my dad, and number 2 was my dad, and really it was number 3, which she never said was my dad. So I guess that deplorable sickness is in their heads somehow. The one sister that's the good one at this point, she did the same thing. She was married to one man and had a kid with another man. And in fact, I'm sorry, she was married to this one man, had a kid with him, married another man while still married to this one. So this marriage really didn't count. And that's something my mother did a number of times. My mother was a bigamist or whatever, twice, okay? And she did the same thing to her son. Her second kid is actually her first kid's father, or whatever. They share the same father, but nobody, in fact, my awful little sister is the one that actually told that kid when he was 16 on his 16th birthday, she told him, oh no, your father is actually your sister's father. And so he had been raised by her sort of second husband all that time. And so you know what? The disgusting mental screw-aroundery, whatever you want to call it, manipulation, runs in the family between these 3 women. I don't even lie. Like, that's how petrified I am of anything like them. I don't lie. Like, I don't even tell white lies because I am so against that. And knowing that I know the answer to who my father is and not telling candidate number one feels like a lie to me. And I know a lot of you have said just don't tell him that he's sick, but it really messes with my mind that I have not told him. But that is the biggest lie that I have, and I don't tell little white lies. Like, I just don't. So candidate number two is alive, and that's what I wanted to share, and I hopefully didn't be so much of a baby. So that's the monumental thing that just happened to me. So immediately my son looks for him on Facebook, and sure enough, there's him on Facebook. He looks just like he used to look. His hair is a little bit longer, and my son immediately asked to be his friend. However, it doesn't look like he's been active since 2017. So I'm hoping that I sent a message back to my mom's oldest friend and told her, you know, I'm sickened, I'm disgusted, you know, can we get in contact with him? So hopefully, you know, maybe he can shed some light on candidate number three. He came around after that, but you know, being that he was my husband's boyfriend, my mother's boyfriend, you know, did she at any point ever tell him about him? So anyway, I hope to talk to him soon. Now, the other thing that happened was 2 months ago, 2 months ago, we were in Ireland again for the third time. Now, mind you, on the 1 year anniversary, Black Friday, I was in the city in which, or the town, the village in which my father's family came from. 1 year after I found out, and it was so important for me to be there. I've shared that video with you guys. Go check that out. If it's like an hour long of just photographs, because my stupid iMovie thing like spends like 3 seconds on each photo, so it took like an hour to upload just the November trip. But in November we went, and I wanted to be in the town that family came from, my family came from, 1 year when I found out. So that was just magical. It was snowing, it was beautiful, whatever. So then we went back in June. So 5 months later, because I am obsessed with Ireland. I will go there every minute I possibly can. My husband has a bad knee right now, or I would be there right now. We went back again. So this time I have done all the research I possibly can on my father's family. It's such a weird last name that you think there'd be a lot of information about it, because you know, it's not like a O'Malley, which there's a whole boatload of them. It's a weird last name, so you think it'd be easier to find, but it's not. So I've done a lot of research on it. So then I thought I would switch over. Now, my father's mother was born in Wales, which is, when you look at Ancestry, it's grouped together as Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. That's one group. And Great Britain is a different. I have a little bit of Great Britain in me. And so my grandma was born in Wales. Well, her mother was born in Dublin. And I found that out. I found her birth certificate, her baptismal record in the church records. I found out where she lived when she was born. And so we went, and so I'm going to put these photographs in here. We went to where she was born. It's a building that just sold a few months ago. So it's under renovation. It's like a brownstone kind of looking thing. And so there was a church bell going off. The church bells in which she was, you know, baptized at was going off. I got a video of that. Hopefully I can include that in here. But it was absolutely amazing to go to that house. My son and I sat on the stoop, you know, which I'm sure she had sat at as a child, you know. And I think it was 4 stories tall. It was multifamily. It wasn't her entire house. It was a multifamily unit kind of thing in what they call the Liberties of. The Liberties are outside the Dublin Wall, which means that they were Catholic and Irish Catholic, because the Christians had taken over, you know, the country, and so you had to be outside the walls to be able to freely practice your religion. So that is that. So my son and I took a picture sitting on the stoop, heard those church bells that I'm sure her family heard, you know, 24 hours a day kind of thing. It was just spectacular. It cemented my love of there. You know, I'd focused so much on my father's family being from Ireland that I just kind of like didn't pay much attention to my father's mother's side. So now I have 2 links there. I am one generation away from being able to be an Irish citizen. However, I am able to be a British citizen. And if that were the case, I can get my dual citizenship and I could actually live in Northern Ireland, which is ruled by Britain. So at some point we intend, my husband's got a few years before, I say 5 years, he says 7 years before he can retire. And at that point, we're going to live in Northern Ireland for about 3 months a year. Northern Ireland is not my favorite. I am absolutely the Republic of Ireland. I am Southern Irish. I'm not Catholic, but my heart and soul are in Southern Ireland. But if I can live in Ireland, I will live in Northern Ireland just to be close to Southern Ireland. Anyway, so I'll include those pictures. I'll do a whole video on the entire trip later on. However, this is now the giveaway. I'm gonna cry again. Look at, so when I don't talk about it, I just get loose. I don't have the breaking out. Okay, so the giveaway. Here is the brand new kit. It is a AncestryDNA kit. Oops, upside down. There it is. AncestryDNA kit, unopened. If you want to know how you do it, just, I believe my daughter's video, I tell you how to do it, and she spits in it and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, go check out that video. It has the time frame and everything. It's a pretty good video as far as instruction goes. So what you need to do to enroll or enter this contest is tell me in the comments what it means to you to know your ancestry. It's not going to sway the rules or sway the how do you say, the entry, because it's just going to be automatically, the comments are how you will get entered into the contest, and I'll do a random comment generator, and that's how I will pick the winner. But you have to just put a comment on what knowing your ancestry means to you. You can share your story, whatever you want to do. I read them all, I just can't respond to them all, because when I read them I can expand it. When I respond I can't, so that's the problem. So just tell me what knowing your ancestry means to you. And you don't have to use this on yourself. I mean, if you've already done the ancestry thing and you've been wanting to test a possible mother or father or possible brother or sister, aunt and uncle, whatever you want to do, I don't care what you do with it, because I'm not paying for your subscription. I'm just paying for the test. The test is like $100, and you get you sign up for a 14-day trial, I think, and no matter if you do a trial or not, or if you subscribe to them or not, you still have the right to your results, you still have the right to your matches, you still have the right to receive messages. So you do not have to join Ancestry to get this information. What you can then do after you get your information, you are entitled to your raw DNA. Let's say that you have a potential mother or father, family member, whatever, that's done 23andMe or family FTDN, I think, FTDNA, MyHeritage, whatever. Everybody's raw DNA can be uploaded to GEDmatch. That is what I highly recommend, is take this raw DNA. Once you get it in the mail, this is your owned property, not mine. I will have nothing to do with it. Once I mail it to you, that is it. This is yours. You have the right to get that raw DNA, you upload it, and then to GEDmatch, and that's where everybody comes to meet. Everybody's DNA from all companies can go there for free, and so you'll get more matches that way. In addition, the reason why I did this initially was for the health purposes, and that I was able to upload to Prometheus, which was $5, and I got an entire thousands of pages of a health history, which has solved quite a few problems, and that is amazing. Again, it's $5. You get a print. I would not print it out. I would download it to your hard drive on your computer, and you can research it at all times. Again, $5, fantastic. You upload your raw DNA, and that's amazing. So the rules are: number 1, you have to be a subscriber of my channel. Number 2, you need to like this video. And number 3, comment. You have to be over 18. I don't care if you have permission of your parents, whatever. You have to be over 18, because I believe you have to be 18 to do this on your own. So I know that, you know, if you're a youngster and you want this kit and want to be entered into it, have your mom or dad do video, you know, comment on the video themselves. And because Black Friday is so important to me, that's when this will end. So that's about 3 months from now. You have a long time to wait, and I just wanted to end it. No matter when I hit that 2,000 mark, I wanted to end this and draw the winner on Black Friday. And so that is it. That is all. So thank you all so much for watching and being a part of my journey. I cannot thank you enough.